Hi, welcome to Module 3b of our Positive Mindsets series. Today we're going to be treating the theme of trauma. So it's so important in terms of our understanding to look at the difference between stress and trauma. They're really closely related, but whereas we talked about stress as the differential between perceived stressors and perceived capacity to deal with stress. Trauma is an event that overwhelms the perceptual equipment of the individual, like mind-blowing or body violating, or some level of our being, mental, emotional, or physical, is overwhelmed, circuits blown, due to either a violation or an absence. So trauma can be defined as an event or experience, or set of experiences that overwhelms the system's capacity to deal. So stress is talking about like, eek, I feel it, but trauma is like, bang, like, whoa, mind blown. Now, a trauma, by formal definition, can also be positive, like something so positive beyond your wildest dreams that you don't have the capacity to respond in the moment. But that has less, lasting effects. So obviously we're going to be talking about the aversive effects of trauma. If you have a moment, you might look up the ACE quiz and the ACE research studies. ACE stands for aversive childhood experiences, and a very large study was done at Kaiser through the Kaiser Health System, really trying to look at, gosh, if we just ask a lot of people, have you ever had the following experiences: the divorce of parents, the death of a parent, a substance abuse in the house, domestic violence in the house? Have you ever been struck by one of your caregivers? Have you ever been inappropriately touched by one of your caregivers? Very simple, yes or no answers to these things. And they found that people who scored 4 or more were much more likely to have difficulties completing school, holding jobs, sustaining relationships, etc., etc., etc. And so it just brought national and international attention to the fact that an overwhelming event causes a certain kind of rupture to the perceptual equipment, meaning like your understanding or your emotional boundaries or your physical sense of safety, that kind of chronically drives in the system. So it places a stress demand on the system simply to either avoid thinking about it or to create a strategy to deal with life in the aftermath. So let's take a specific example. Let's say that a young woman is sexually molested by a step-parent or the boyfriend of a mom over a period of years. This causes her to activate her sexual awareness, self-awareness, much earlier than is intended, which creates trouble in relationships. It may cause her to have night terrors as a result of feeling the chronic dread, like, will this be the night that this happens? If it's one of those things where they're in the house, it can cause metabolic damage. It can create a charge in the metabolism, either that they suppress violently the feelings and thus refuse food or refuse intake and refuse to metabolize the experience, or the opposite, where overeating occurs to self-soothe. These are just a few examples. Of course, romance would be charged with all kinds of weirdness. So these are all potential sequelae of one set of experiences, formative experiences, that profoundly shape a person's worldview. By contrast, I want to talk about by contrast because that's like creepy and hard to sit with. But Many women have experienced this, so it's important to name it and not shrink back from the deeper realities. But by contrast, you could be just having a beautiful time on a country road riding your bike, and all of a sudden you swerve to dodge a squirrel or something, and a car comes by and clips the handle, and you end up just having a pretty dramatic bicycle accident that injures you, but not badly, but shocks you and throws you off your bike, destroys your bike. So that can be a trauma. That's a trauma of the physical kind. You weren't expecting it. You didn't see it coming. It wasn't really your fault, right? You didn't do anything like wrong or bad or whatever. And there wasn't malice on the part of the other person. It just happened. So you're left with this like shock and fear and discharge of extreme adrenal output that comes in the face of such events. And so this can create like a little energy ball inside the body that's like, yes, hypercharged. And we don't understand what it is that is causing disruptions in our life experiences or in our relationships. And it can be this like charged up ball of energy that hasn't been able to escape. So I'm naming this because trauma can have several expressions as it lives in your being. And the reason I'm naming this today is because when we're wanting to cultivate a positive mindset, we may have had a trauma or two or three or four that deeply dislocated us in terms of our areas of thriving, our best habitat for friendships, or our attitudes and actions that will really engage this. So it's important to sort of identify trauma as a potential area to explore. So just to go a little bit deeper about this theme, when one is carrying the effects, the ongoing effects of trauma, and like our psyche is exquisitely wise about how we carry these things, because basically when these things happen, in the aftermath, there's like the repair team that comes in and they go like, whoa, that was bad, that was hard, that was terrible, let's not go there. And there's a kind of shock or quietness that ensues. And then somehow with our attentional awareness, there's like a little sign that says, pass on by. Don't look here. And so subconsciously, we develop this way of operating in life where we never explore those things again, because we're not supposed to look back, not supposed to look in the past. But they live in us. They're in our present. And they just have a little luck door on top, a little trap door on top with a sign that says, go somewhere else. And it's a perfect strategy so that the psyche can heal itself around this wound, while the individual on the conscious level can go around doing their errands and doing their life, and they're not so deeply compromised. So it is a beautiful wisdom we have. And then at the right time in life, we have the capacity to know that we're a full and complete being and that we carry trauma or wounds or whatever. And that we can gently and with loving curiosity explore what lives behind the mystery door. Yeah. And it takes some time usually to do these things. Like one wants to be a little bit older to have a sense of self, and then look into what seems spooky, the spooky thing under the bed of our psyche. So I name trauma because part of positive mindset can be a strategy to not let other people close to us, or not let other people in, because we feel the vulnerability or the overwhelm associated with something from our childhood. And those can really affect how we look at ourselves. And there's an implicit sense of one's agency that is tied to perhaps an age that doesn't reflect our present age. So someone may feel perfectly capable of assembling a truck or diagnosing a sophisticated software issue, but on the emotional level, they really are not feeling mature when they relate to other people in the feeling realm. So that's an example of how trauma can affect our mindset. So in this healing walk that we're taking together, we want to be able to just give a little time and a little patience to the possibility that overwhelming early childhood events are at play, or strategies to cope with the aftermath of those events are at play in shaping our mindsets and subconscious strategies. So I hope that you can be gentle with yourself and others, and remember that people in your workplace, people in the dentist's office, people at the gas station, at the library, they are all living with some wound, some loss, some challenge. And so we need to understand that these are at work all around us. We just have to be gentle and take a little time and be curious about how energy is moving in us and what our mind is telling us about it. So I hope this gives you some support in your inquiry.